Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I hope that you can all hear me clearly. So welcome to this webinar and this series of real estate conversations, wherever you're joining us from. My name is Lanre Olutimilehin. I'm going to be moderating our session this morning or afternoon, depending on where you are. I'm responsible for strategy at D.R. Fatimileye & Company. And D.R. Fatimileye & Company is Nigeria's leading multidisciplinary estate surveyor and valuer. We've been in practice for over 40 years, and it's our pleasure to welcome you to this session. We're having these sessions to discuss real estate in Nigeria. And this particular series is about the tough terrain of acquiring or building property in Nigeria. As we all know, I think many of us are Nigerians or grew up in Nigeria or Nigerian origin. Nigeria can be a challenging place for many things, and including real estate investment. Whether you're buying, whether you're selling, whether you're building, there's a lot to have to deal with. There are laws, there are regulations, and there's practice, which all have to be taken into account. And unfortunately, at times, what we find is that there's big knowledge gap for many people as they undergo this process. There's also the economics of the market, the cost of building, what price to sell or buy at, so that you make an appropriate return, and the overall economic headwinds which Nigeria is facing at present. Real estate is the largest investment that many individuals will make in their lifetimes. And it forms a significant portion of the wealth of many families and households. So it's absolutely important to get it right. It's absolutely important to ensure that there are no losses or fraud in making this investment. So in our agenda today, we have a very exciting lineup of speakers. We have Mr. Tola Oyenekan, who is the head of research at D.R. Fatimileye & Co. We have Mr. Ekundayo Onojobi, a legal practitioner at one of Nigeria's leading law firms. We also have a couple of speakers who from the UK and US, Mr. Yemi Kuku and Mr. Theophilus Odeni, who are going to be sharing their experiences as when the experiences in respect of real estate in Nigeria. We also have the pleasure of having the founding partner of D.R. Fatimileye & Co. in attendance, Mr. Gboyega Fatimileye. I'm sure that he would answer some questions as they come up. And I believe we also have the partner and head of practice at D.R. Fatimileye, that's Mr. Idowu Bakare, online as well. They're deep fountains of knowledge, and hopefully they'll be able to share their thoughts and experience as we go along. So I want to welcome everyone again. A little housekeeping. If you have questions, please make use of the Q&A facility on the app, and we'll redirect your questions as appropriate. And throughout the session today, you will see some polls come up, and we'll be grateful for your inputs, in helping us to answer these questions, as they give us insight into your concerns, your thinking, and how we can best serve you. Welcome once again. I think we're going to go right into the next item on the agenda, which is an overview of the Nigeria real estate landscape, and that is being taken by Mr. Tola Oyenekan, who is the head of research at D.R. Fatimileye. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining in. to share my screen. Okay. All right. I hope you can all hear me. All right. So welcome to this this platform. Very quickly, I'll just be taking us through this presentation, investing in Nigeria's real estate markets. I know that we are connecting from different parts outside the country, and just looking at investment opportunities here in Nigeria. And so from a real estate perspective, I'll just be sharing a few thoughts with us this evening. So we're looking at trends and opportunities. We will just quickly look at how the diaspora remittance is doing from a global perspective, and even in Africa. And then we will come down to Nigeria and look at the real estate investment opportunities that we have currently in Nigeria, and then to the question that in Nigeria. And so this slide just shows us top recipients of diaspora remittances across the world, and of course India comes top on the list, and we have Nigeria and Egypt as well as part of the top 10 recipients of diaspora remittances across the world. And from an African perspective, we would see Nigeria and Egypt, right? But basically, looking at having had conversations with, what we find is that that effective demand for real estate projects, is 5% diaspora driven. And so what that means is that there's a lot of investments coming into Nigeria, coming into the Nigerian real estate market from the diaspora community. I mean, the same goes for Egypt. I mean, these two cities typically just, they are characterized by, a huge population. Nigeria, the largest population in Africa. The same goes for Egypt as well. Cairo, which is, the nation's capital, is, already overcrowded, and what they've had to do is to open up, that particular country, and so they set up about 13 new cities, and that has also brought in a lot of investment, particularly from, the diaspora population, right? But looking into Nigeria, one point that we need to drive on, because I mean, it's not enough to, be interested in investing in Nigeria. More importantly, you must know, where to invest. So that's the question. Why invest is the question, but where to invest is also a very important question. And that's why I would just like to drive on the point that says that growth and development is not evenly spread, across Nigeria. And so what we find is that cities and states are developing at different levels. And so this particular chart just shows us states that have their GDP 3 trillion naira annually. So we have those light colored states, then GDP between 3 trillion and 5 trillion, which I would like to call the tier 2 cities. The states with the GDP less than 3 trillion, I would like to call them the tier 3 cities. And then states above 5 trillion. So we're looking at the likes of Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, Akwa Ibom, that's Uyu, Delta, Ogun, states above 5 trillion naira GDP mark. So what we've tried to do, here in DFN and Co, of course, we have presence in a number of states, right? So what we've tried to do is to just analyze, just try to see how the different markets are doing across, across different states, across different cities, and just try to show us some opportunities across different states, and just in trying to clarify where each state falls under. These are some of the factors that will probably drive, or that is driving that conversation. So we're looking at things like increased urbanization, that movement of people into the state capital, that urban center. Then we're looking at infrastructure growth in terms of how much is coming into the presence of industry, factories, presence of foreign direct investment. Also, of course, we'll look at things like future growth potential. So when we come to the tier 2 cities and the tier 3 cities, that seem to have some opportunities for future growth. So to consider, right? And so these are informed that classification. But now to the real estate market, various opportunities. So we're looking at land. Land, typically is one of the most resilient real estate asset classes. So even when the economy isn't doing so well, in terms of strong headwinds and the land seem to appreciate consistently. And so there is that resilient nature when it comes to land. Then we also we'll look at residential, and we'll look at the commercial aspect of things. So when it comes to land, in just trying to invest and just thinking around a particular state or a particular city, one factor that must be considered is location-based investing. Location is one of the strongest factors that drive appreciation of land, in terms of how land, how the value is doing and how it's appreciating. And so you need to really look into from a location point of view. And so you're looking at things like the zoning laws. And so there are sections of a particular location that is earmarked for residential. There are sections that are earmarked for commercial. There are sections that are earmarked for industrial. And so just to put your assets put that asset to its maximum use, you need to look at things like zoning laws. Then in terms of infrastructure as well, these are some of the things that actually drive the value of land. And so even proximity to amenities. So it has to come from that perspective, location-based investment. Then we're looking at what we call capital appreciation potential. Land is said to be finite, and what that means is that the supply is limited. And if the supply is limited, when there is increased demand for such an asset, the price will always tend to go up. Right. And so land, that capital appreciation nature of land is very much in play. And then we are looking at, nascent and nuance. And so what we find is that particularly for tier 1 cities like Lagos, Abuja, or Lagos, Port Harcourt, these are places where a lot of people would like to, live in and, just work in and stay in situation of activity in their city centers, right? And what has happened is it's given opportunity for, nascent locations to open up. And so Lagos is a very good example. We have, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, Efe was still coming up, but now it has become an attractive location, even just looking at how much money, how much investment has gone into that, that axis. And, land prices have appreciated so much, in that axis. The same goes for Abuja, as well, because there are, low-end locations that low now, due to, concentration of movement of estates and, residential dwelling, in that axis. And so this just shows us, the performance of, in terms of growth rate. And so, of course, Lagos, 22% for the high-end part of Lagos, the same goes for Abuja and even for the mid and low-end axis. But what you will find, or what we found from our research, is locations like Uyo and Asaba, that's Delta states, right? These are locations where their land, their land is also appreciating very fast. I think Asaba now has an international airport. Uyo now has, an international airport that, that's already doing regional movement, regional travels, right? And so a lot of attention is coming into, states like this. And this is also beginning to influence, how land is doing in these various locations. And so it just remains an asset of choice, particularly in the Tier 1 and Tier 2 cities, where land is appreciating at a very fast rate. But remember, it's from a location-based perspective, and then you also consider, the capitalization of land, these factors that can drive, your decisions as regards land investment. Then we are looking at, residential trend, use of versus of that, right? So you're looking at building or buying versus looking at building or less. Right? So that's the capacity, it's a strong by because, you have to just own over above, current wings and in terms of doing, the ability, but you come to look at rent in terms of system flow. You're looking at it, like, a lot is big from back to move, more questions. What has happened on one, Tier 1 city, opening the stop it's opening up, locations just outside the like back something to consider young people, beginning work-life balance, right? It's like, a sense of just prioritizing more stay out in, like, so I'll just quickly slide. So we have, these are just different locations, CRA, including annual yield, to have, some sort of, the hope is that the system would, that sort of wealth for you, like,
Thank
from
you.
Income generation is a for this wealth for that are closer to their customers. It is also business just what for this. So
okay, thank you so much, Tola. Thank you so much, Tola. I think the only thing is, I think we've been having some issues with the network, so we can't hear you very well. But if you just conclude the slide very quickly, we'll move on. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So conclude the slide so we can move.
Is it better?
Still choppy.
So why Nigeria rapid urban congestion is a factor, because that how places because that part of that you can get expansion, other cities you are Belkuta, of course, to Lake the growth. We are living currently in the north city era, right? So what I mean is that infrastructure and we expect more into infrastructure
Okay.
Just to send.
All right, Tola. Thank you so
Commission,
much.
Blue Line.
Thank you so much, Tola. Thank you very much for it was an insightful presentation. Apologies to everyone for the technical issues. You might not have been able to hear clearly, but I hope you were able to get the message being delivered on those slides, which is that, I mean, real estate is still a very attractive investment proposition in Nigeria. So I can't see, there are not some questions. Okay, someone has asked if the slides can be shared. Yes, I believe we should be able to share a version of that presentation with you. Tola, one question from me, I hope we'll be able to hear you clearly, which is that, you know, in this era of Naira devaluation, you know, why should I make an investment in Nigerian real estate? You know, if I'm earning, you know, foreign currency, you know, and my savings are in foreign currency, you know, what sense does it make for me to buy Nigerian real estate at this time? Okay, I don't, I'm not sure if Tola can hear me, but I think we'll move on, and I think we'll come back to Tola later. Tola, thank you for your presentation. So now I think we have a poll. So we're going to be sharing a poll question right now. So, okay, good. So like I said at the beginning of the session, we'll be grateful if you could just help us complete these questions at this time. Like we said, we are grateful for the insights you are sharing with us as you complete these questions. Thank you. So we're now going to invite our discussants. We have two, like we said earlier. We have Mr. Yemi Kuku and Mr. Theophilus Odeniyi, who will spend a few minutes telling us about their experiences with real estate in Nigeria. So I think as per the agenda, we will start with Mr. Yemi Kuku. Thank you, sir. Welcome. So will just spend a few minutes. I think, you know, so that we keep the time, we have about 5 minutes for you to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, moderator. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here this afternoon. I want to commend what Dia Fatimilehin and co are doing to educate us, especially those in the diaspora, in investing in the real estate sector. I happened to be one of those in the diaspora. I've been here for about 20 years, and I've been a victim of circumstances being in the diaspora and looking forward to real estate back home in Nigeria. I've been a victim. It happened a couple of years ago. And that's why I'm really happy. I'm glad for what Dia Fatimilehin and co are putting together. It's a way of encouraging us, especially those in the diaspora, investing back home, and the realities, the benefits that comes with it. That's why I'm really excited with what they are doing. But to cut the long story short, what happened was I was trying to get a building done back home a couple of years ago. And this happened to be a very close member of the family, extended family, really. And then we got the land. I was being sent pictures saying the land was gotten. I was sent pictures saying the building was done. And when I was on ground back home in Nigeria, Lagos to be precise, I found out that nothing was done. And I needed to go and start all over again. And it's amazing because if things like that does happen, it doesn't encourage those in the diaspora to invest, especially in this sector back home. But what Dia Fatimilehin are putting together, I happen to have listened to some of the things they're putting together is a way of encouragement, especially many of us in the diaspora saying, I mean, there are things that can be done back home whereby you can invest and earn earnings on your investment. So, like I said earlier, I happen to be one of the victims that at the end of the day, I spent a lot of money and there was nothing to show about it. Apparently, I got to meet someone like a company as well, just like Dia Fatima Lane, what they are doing. And through them, I was able to acquire a property back in Nigeria now. I give God all the glory. But I just want to encourage as many listening to me. I'm so excited, as in there is hope for us back home, especially many of us living in the diaspora. There is hope with what Dia Fatima Lane, especially after going through their presentation and what they're doing. It's something encouraging. It's really encouraging. And I mean, I will commend their effort to help us, as many of us in the diaspora, to make sure, I mean, we can have something to fall back and to make sure, you know, we can have another kind of income when it comes to investing in properties, real estate, and stuffs like that.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kuku. Thank you. Sorry to hear about your experience. We know, I think, you know, whether anecdotally, many Nigerians, it's not a surprise to many Nigerians to hear that something like that had happened. And, you know, I think as we go on in the session, we'll talk about how we at Dia Fatima Lane want to address those issues for Nigerians in the diaspora. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we move on to Mr. Odeni, I would just like to remind everyone that at the bottom of the screen, you'll find a Q&A button. If you have any questions, please type them in there so that, you know, we can start teeing them up for our participants. Thank you for our panelists and speakers. Mr. Odeni, thank you for joining us today. Please share your story with us.
Okay, thank you so much for having me. I'm really glad for this opportunity to express my experience as far as real estate is concerned in Nigeria. Personally, I've not had a really bad experience. What I can count as the bad experience was I bought some lands, probably from family members, right? 2 parcels of land, which I lost. Okay. But when I finally made up my mind to have a structure in Nigeria, I talked to a friend living in Abeokuta. So he assisted me in getting a land, which I built my house. And up to today, I've not had any issue. But my brothers keep giving pressure, putting pressure on me that I should have a house in Lagos. I say, look, I'm not ready for this Lagos problem that you buy a land, you pay for a land maybe 10 times. Or when you are building the house, this monile or whatever they call them, you start disturbing you. I don't want to. My brother told me that, look, there's a company building some houses over there, like an estate, that if you want to talk to them. And I did. But like I told the guy that helped me, I was initially apprehensive. I was so skeptical. I thought it might not work out. And why? Because my friends told me their experience, even buying from these realtors in Nigeria. A friend of mine told me that he bought a plot of land from a company, which I don't want to mention the name, right? Then he paid, he did everything. So when it was time for him to start building, then the company got into this court case litigation, right? And which took for a long time. Up to now, I don't think it has been resolved. And unfortunately, he did not get his money back. So he lost the money. He didn't get the land, and he didn't get his money. Then another thing I want to talk about is about other friend that went to this real estate stuff too. Okay, they said it was to get some money from the Federal Mortgage Bank. So he was saving the money, saving. When it was time for him to get the loan, I mean, they brought their bottlenecks, all this, what do you call it, red herring, So he couldn't get any loan. Then the company itself now said that, okay, you know what, if you could not get the loan from a Federal Mortgage Bank, we have our own mortgage bank where you can get loan from. Then also, let me go with you guys. Unfortunately, they gave him very high interest, maybe like 30%, like 25%, which was very discouraging. Eventually, he had to look for money over here to pay off the building. Then lastly, another thing I want to mention about this real estate in Nigeria, I found that sometimes the building, the structures itself, I mean, they don't use quality materials. They use poor material to build. So when you go in there, I mean, you start fixing this, fixing that. You spend so much. Who shouldn't be? These are the things that we are really facing. So those of us in diaspora, I mean, when they hear stuff like this, I mean, they get discouraged.
Yes.
So if something that you can look into and fix, that will be fine. So
thank you.
That's my experience so far.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. I think, yourself and Mr. Kuku have, in the space of about 10 minutes, highlighted many of the concerns that Nigerians go through, Nigerians in the diaspora goes through, in buying or building property in the country. There are big knowledge gaps in terms of understanding the process, the transaction process, and that's a subject actually of our next seminar next week. There are knowledge gaps. There's a lack of understanding about who your counterparty, who you're dealing with. You're dealing with developers. What is their track record? So, I mean, I don't want to spend so much time at this particular moment, but we have a solution for that which we will present. So thank you to both of you. Yes, I can see that the questions are coming in. Thank you. Please continue to write your questions. We will address them shortly. I think this is on the agenda. We're looking at time for another poll. So can that poll go up now? Otherwise, we'll move on to the next section of the webinar. Okay, so these are the results. Lagos is the first choice for property, followed by Ibadan. In terms of why people are interested in investing in property in Nigeria, it's not a surprise. It's for the building of wealth, for growing their wealth. And in terms of what people would like to buy, the result is that residential, followed by land. So residential meaning housing is what people are most focused on. And have you ever been a victim of fraudulent real estate transactions? 14% said yes. That is relatively large. That is relatively large. And it is something that we would start to look at with our next speaker. Mr. Ekundayo Onojobi is a legal practitioner at one of Nigeria's leading law firms. He's very well versed in the legal issues surrounding real estate and has worked on many different types of transactions. So, if there's anyone who can speak to red flags or issues, things you should be looking out for in real estate transactions that should give you cause for concern, Mr. Onojobi is the right person to tell you that. So, Mr. Ekundayo Onojobi, can you Will you unmute? Show, I don't know if you are sharing. Okay, here we go. Thank you. Sekundayo, please, over to you.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Can everybody hear my voice? Hello?
Yes, I can. I can. I think we
Okay.
can. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. So we have a lot of things to cramp into the few minutes that I have. So I will just try to be as quick and as fast as I can. But just before I start, permit me to share my screen. I want to, the host, please, could you please permit me to share my screen? I want to share something. It's all part of my time, don't worry, I know that. Okay. Okay, so the screen is not allowing me share, but I'm sure we all, can you all hear me?
Yes, Mr. Nojobi, please go
Okay.
ahead.
I wanted to share the video that I know was making the rounds earlier this week about the Lagos State government, demolishing a lot of buildings and estates, across the state. So let me quickly, I'll dial back and then I have a lot of things to cramp in. Now, for this week, it's a two-part seminar, and we'll talk about the legalese sometime next week. But based on my experience, I will just run us through some of the things that are red flags that I think that should catch your attention. The first of them is this: one, if you are buying a land that is subject to government acquisition or that is under government acquisition, please don't let anybody bamboozle you. Simple meaning. Government acquisition simply means that government has a designated purpose for the land around that area. So some people will tell you that, oh, it is under government acquisition and that they have made an application for excision, that the land is under, they made an application for land excision. I stand to be corrected, but don't let anybody bamboozle you. Government has not excised land to anybody since in the last 10 years. So what that means is this: the government compulsorily acquires a particular parcel of land, and then you find villagers or some families say, go to meet government to say, oh, government, we own this land from time immemorial, and we want to be able to, sell part of this land or develop. And what that then does is they apply to the government, and the government now carves out a portion of the land or recognizes their title to the entire land. And the evidence of that recognition is usually by way of a gazette. So this is the process: government acquisition, excision, and then the end of that is a gazette. Now, as far as I know, the government, a lot of people have made application for government excision, but that application has not been concluded in the last 10 years. And we are not aware that government is willing to excise any land to anybody. So there's no new excision that is coming. So if you are familiar with the Lekki axis, you probably will find a lot of parcel of land where there's a lot of people put Lagos State government signboard on it saying it is subject to government excision, and they give you an excision file number. Please try your best not to go for lands within that area. Of course, except if the land is not committed, but generally don't try not to do any land that is under government excision, because you will most likely not get title at the end of the day. That's the first one. The second red flag is this: if, and I say this respectfully to agents, and Dia Fatimilei is not part of those, but an agent will want to make its money, and the agent will tell you, oh, we need to do this. They will create a false sense of urgency to tell you, oh, please, Larry, if you don't buy this property, there are 3 other people waiting to buy this property. Once you find agents creating false sense of urgency over any parcel of land, please withdraw. Your money is safest in your pocket. Your money is safest in your pocket. You worked for that money. So don't let anybody use any false sense of urgency to make you pack with your money. You know, somebody described the investments like, and I say this respectfully, somebody described investments like, you know, jambites in the university. Don't worry, every year there will always be new freshers in the university. So if you miss this opportunity this year, just wait another year, you will get another opportunity. So the first thing is, once your land is under government acquisition, be careful of the land, you know, any land that falls within that part of government acquisition. Please be very careful of those kind of land, whether or not they tell you they are filing for excision. We are not aware that government is going to grant any excision. That is one. Two, if there's a false sense of urgency over that land, please just calm down. Don't let anybody rush you or bamboozle you. Don't let anybody do that. The third thing is this. How do I describe it? Documentation gap. So, you know, the concept of land ownership in Nigeria has a lot of angles to it. Lanre can actually own a land. But if Lanre cannot show you sufficient documentation to say that he owns that land, then that is a red flag. Now, I must quickly say this. There are two regimes. Let me call it two regimes. Yeah. There are two regimes of land administration in Nigeria. There are parcels of land that have registered title document. That is fine. There are also some parcels of land that do not have registered title document. So the type of land you are buying will determine the nature of the investigation that you will do. However, if you have been told that the land you are buying has title or it has some form of a documentation, ladies and gentlemen, those documents must align. Don't let anybody bamboozle you. Once there is a gap, then it is a flag. The nature of the gap in the document can either be a red flag, in which case you should not go ahead, or a yellow flag. However, until they satisfactorily answer all the questions you have, please don't part with your money. The first thing I've told you is land under government acquisition. The second thing I've told you is a false sense of urgency or it sales. The third thing is if there's a documentation gap, please don't get involved. The other thing, the next thing I was about to show, which was not going through, and I don't know why it couldn't go, was the physical planning that I wanted to show to us. See, there's a Yoruba adage that says that when government tells you, I am coming, you see that statement of I am coming, government may not come in 20 years. However, when they come, there's almost nothing you can do. And based on experience, the worst person to fight is government. The worst person to fight is government. And I say that because who is government? Who are you fighting? There are cases in court that have been 10 years old. So the best thing that can happen to you as an investor is to ensure maximum compliance from day one. Maximum compliance. And you see, for a lot of people that fall prey to some of these things is because, and I'm not saying this in a derogatory manner because I am from that part of town or that part of Nigeria. I am an Ijebu man. But you see, the problem with a lot of us is that we try to play smart only to end up being penny wise, pound foolish. I am not an engineer, so if I attempt to repair my car, I probably will mess it up. I am not a doctor, so if I attempt to treat my daughter, I probably will mess it up. Ladies and gentlemen, quite a number of us are not lawyers. Quite a number of people are not lawyers. Quite a number of people are not investment brokers. Some people went to school to study these things. Some people went to school to learn about these things. Some people have practiced these things for over 10 years. So you know what? In deciding that you want to buy a land, you must actually prepare for two things. And I'll wrap up shortly. You must prepare for two things. One, prepare your purchase price, which is the amount that you want to buy the land for. 20 million, 50 million, 1 billion. You need to prepare that. One. Then you also need to prepare for what is called transaction costs. You need to prepare for transaction costs. What do I mean by transaction costs? You will need a lawyer. You need to pay a lawyer to do their job. You will need a surveyor. You need to pay a surveyor to do their job. You will probably need a town planning consultant to do their job. So the summary of what I've said is, do not be in a hurry. Your money is safest in your pocket. Anybody that is telling you, please, if you don't do it now, the opportunity will go. Just keep your money in your pocket. Once any land is subject to government acquisition, be very careful. That's another flag. If there's, you also need to get professionals to do your job. You need to get professionals to do your job. And getting professionals to do your job means that you have to pay them well. Now, let me tell you the advantage of getting professionals to do your job. And especially for those of us that are in diaspora, don't let any real estate company come and bamboozle you with 3D presentation. Larry, you get me? Don't let them come and use 3D presentation to bamboozle you. Anybody can do 3D. Get your professionals. The advantage of getting your professionals is this, and I'll tell you why. If anything goes wrong and you find out that your professionals have advised you wrongly, you actually can sue your professionals for damages. But you see, you don't want to pay the professional. You know, let me wrap up with this example. I have an auntie once who needed to do something. She didn't want to pay me, but she was now asking me questions. Kundayo, if I want to do this, what do I do? Kundayo, if I want to do this, what do I do? I knew what she was going to, but respectfully, I just answered her. So in summary, do your due diligence. However, you most likely are not competent to do this due diligence. So what you should do is to get professionals and pay them well. So the biggest way, in summary, finally, the best way to identify real estate red flags is to get competent professionals and pay them. That's all from me, Larry.
Thank you so much, Ekundayo, for a very forthright and very clear set of guidelines for us to follow as buyers and as professionals. We're very grateful. You know, I would like to just take one step back. I know you are trying to play that video about the demolition of property that in the Kota area of Lekki. You were trying to play that video, and we know that it was the commissioner of the Ministry of Environment and Water Resources that was leading that charge. One of the things you mentioned is physical planning. So I don't know. I mean, do you want to share some insights? You know, because I know, you know, that video has been making the rounds across the world. Here in Nigeria, also with many people in diaspora, and you know, as you can imagine, it's a very big fear for anyone who wants to put money down. We could see, you know, very expensive developments being knocked down. I think you had started to talk about it, but do you want to just, you know, say a few thoughts about you know, the rights of those individuals whose property was being destroyed or being demolished, and you know, the right of government to do that?
Okay. Please, to the administrator's back end, I just forwarded you a link to the video. So if we can project it, that's fine. To the administrators, mobile especially. Owning a land is one thing. Developing the land is another thing. That you own the land, and sorry, I'm using the word ownership loosely because under Nigerian law, it's the office of the governor that owns land. You don't own land. Let's dial back. Nobody owns land in Nigeria. Only the governor owns land. And the reason for which is why when they give you a certificate of occupancy, it is not called a certificate of ownership. It is called a certificate of occupancy, because what you have over that land is a right to occupy that land. But, you know, let's use the word ownership loosely. That you own the land, you also have to develop the land in accordance with the established rules and regulation. for anybody on this conference call or on this webinar, if you have access to any certificate of occupancy, one of the conditions of the certificate of occupancy is that you must develop in accordance with town planning regulations. If you go to your town planning laws, you must get your building permit. So the question is this. Now, I must quickly say, I am not saying that those people whose houses were demolished do not have a right against government. However, it will be a question of evidence. One, did you construct in accordance with the town planning regulation? In fact, one, do you even have a building permit? That's the first question. Do you have a building permit? I was privileged to be on there was a building collapse that happened in Ikoyi, Gerald 2021, November 2021. I was privileged to be part of the Lagos State Committee that investigated that building collapse. And from that experience, for me, you must not only have, if you are buying a house, and this is for the people that are buying developer type properties, if you are buying a house, don't only check for title to land, please. Check for building permits, 2. And then 3, ask the developer to give you what is called a certificate for fitness for habitation, a certificate for completion and fitness for habitation. That certificate shows that government has confirmed that the house has been properly built and has structural integrity, which answers Mr. Odeniyi's question. So you need to ask for that. A lot of people don't ask for that. Now, to answer the question as to what rights you have against the government if your house is demolished, it's a lot of things. Trust me, before the government came to demolish your house, they know that you have breached something to come. So you need to find out, are you complying with the land ownership? Are you complying with the building regulation? Did you build on a right of way? So what government is saying for those people that they demolished their houses, so they built over waterways, they built over, accesses and easements, and what have you. So if to determine whether you have a right against the government, we have to look at all of these things put together. However, lawyers are very funny. And one question the lawyer will be asking is this: I have the land and the Ministry of Physical Planning gave me building permits. So why should physical planning have approved the development if physical planning should know that that land is actually on waterway? So if government approved it, then government should not come and demolish it. So there's no straightforward answer to it. We have to examine all of the facts in order to determine whether you have a right against government or not. But, all of these things we are talking about now, with respect to people whose house were demolished, they are all reactive. The best solution, the best medication is preventive. Get your lawyer, get your town planner, get your architect, let all of them confirm that you are in maximum compliance. That way, you don't have to be fighting in a reactive manner. You would have prevented everything.
Thank you so much, Ekundayo, for that answer. I think it's clear. We know that we don't have all the facts, in respect to that situation. I'm sure, over the next, in the near future, we'll get more information on that. But yes, I think the story for everyone is one of maximum compliance and ensuring that, any development, whether you are purchasing from a developer in an estate or you're building yourself, is in maximum compliance with the laws, of the state. Thank you very much. And I think with that, we've answered quite a few of the questions. There's a question from Tony Ayola. Yes, so I think that's been addressed. There was also a question from Temitayo Prince about acquired land and government acquisition. So I think, yes, that has been addressed as well. Please, if you have any further questions, do use the Q&A facility to ask them. Ekundayo, one other thing, how is this very expensive? We're talking about compliance, we're talking about all these things. Is it, you mentioned that when you prepare for your acquisition, you should also set an amount aside for for the professionals that deal with checking all these things for people? I mean, so in your view, I mean, is that a very costly enterprise?
Larry, it is not costly, but we find that anything above the actual price of the property, investors will tell you, I don't have money. That's what we find. That anything above the price of the land, investors will tell you they don't have money. And look at it this way. It's like getting married. When you get married to a man getting married to a woman, you have to provide for your home. So your costs of getting married is really not the cost of the wedding. There are other costs as well. If you get married and you decide to have children, it's not just the cost of the naming ceremony or giving birth. There's the cost of going to school, there's the cost of feeding, and what have you. So, look at it from a risk perspective. Is it okay for me to spend 10% of the purchase price to protect my investment? Anyway, I don't do it again. I don't really entertain such. You find somebody buying a land of 50 million. Oh, I was still talking to somebody yesterday. And you find somebody buying a land of 50 million and they're telling you things of, lawyer now, please just help me do it, just help me do it. And they're telling you things like, you already have the template of the document. It's not just to change the name from Lanre to Ekundayo and just change the address. I will give you something small. What is the liability issue? So is it expensive? I will not say it is expensive. But remember that this is also the source of livelihood of your lawyer, of your town planner. So they also want to live a life. So look at it this way. You know what they said? If you think education is expensive, try ignorance. So it is not expensive, but you have to pay for it.
Thank you, Ekundayo. Thank you so much for all your insights. I think that's been very helpful. I think it's addressed a lot of concerns. And I think, what's going to be great, especially, is also, at our next session, where we are talking about the process from start to finish. I think we've addressed the red flags, things to make sure you look out for. But next time, we're going to be talking about the process. So I think we're going to move to the next part of this webinar, which is a poll. Okay, there's a raised hand. So anyone that has a question, please just type your question in the Q&A section. That's the easiest way. That's how we've set up the webinar today. Okay, so the question is, from Samuel Bukumi. It says, with the demolitions currently going on in Abuja, to be precise, there are some buildings that has all the necessary documents intact, but still the buildings are demolished. What should the owners do about this? Because even if there will be a compensation, the money paid might not be up to what the owner would have realized if he or she would have wanted to sell by himself, because land value won't be added when carrying out valuation for compensation. Sorry, Ekundayo, in summary, I mean, this is, you're giving us free legal advice, but the question here is that if you have a situation where all the documentation is intact and there is 100% compliance, what happens if there's compensation that is not up to the value of the property that's been demolished? I don't know if this kind of situation can actually occur, but Ekundayo, please, if you share your thoughts, and then I think if Mr. Fatimilehin is also on, perhaps he can also share his thoughts. So Ekundayo, did you get the question?
Yes, I read the question from the Q&A. So there are two answers to that question. One, assuming 100% compliance and government demolition still happens, then you can go to court and sue for the actual damages, the future damage. You can sue for the maximum, damages possible. However, How are you sure there is 100% compliance? And I will give you an example. I hope you know it is possible to actually get a development permit to undertake a construction in a place. However, that development permit or that approval was irregularly obtained. So let me tell you what they are using for them in Abuja. And this is something we've advised on. They can show you that, oh, they have development permits. However, the person, quote unquote, illegally procured that permit to do a business undertaking, a commercial undertaking, when the master plan for that area is actually residential. So the fact that somebody is waiving their building permit to you does not mean that that building permit was properly obtained. Or there could be height restrictions. You can't go beyond 30 meters and the person goes to 150 meters. You have your documents, but it's irregular. So the two answers to the question is this. If you actually have your documents in a row, 100% compliant, you can go to court, sue the government, and get the maximum, damages possible. However, before you actually beat your chest to say, I have my documents in a row and I have all my documents complete, you must not only have the document complete, but you must have procured and obtained those documents the right and the proper way.
Thank you, Ekundayo. Thank you so much. Mr. Fatimilehin.
Thank you. I'm delighted to talk to this. Like Ekundayo has said, the mere fact that you have your building permission does not mean that it is good to build. That's why you need all the consultants to work on them. If it's outside, if it's for residential and you are going to build industrial, they will not accept it because it will not have been properly procured. And if it's not properly procured, you already violated the town planning rules. So that's why we're saying that even if you're getting your brother to build the house for you, it is good to also check everything professionally that they are correct and that you are good to go. So
Thank you.
we need to ensure that we are compliant totally before we move on. And if it will be rectified, you have to have the certificate of rectification. Assuming that it is for industrial and there's a waiver for you, you must have the waiver along with what you have, so that when you get to court, it will not be vitiated.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Fatimilehin. Thank you. Thank you all for these questions. Olafamuyiwa says that they have a lot of important questions, but are driving and can only talk. Okay, I don't know if we have a facility for that. Our apologies. So we now have another poll. I think it's up already. Some more questions. Please help to answer, and I think we'll share the results of that poll in a few minutes. Okay, so please, I think we'll have a few more minutes to a little more time to answer that poll. Now we will be going into the next section of the webinar today. We're coming towards the end of it, where we're going to talk about RAS, which is our real estate acquisition and advisory service. It's a service being offered by Dia Fatimelehin and Company in response to many of these issues. And what we are offering is independent verification. It's ensuring compliance and de-risking these investments for you. I think that the poll we just conducted said, 14% of the respondents were saying that, they've been subject, they've been victims. That is large. That is very large. And this is what this product is designed to address, to check all these things for you, to give advice on the process from professionals who have been doing this for 40 years, so that you are not at risk or your risk is limited. So I believe we have a video about RAS to play, and we'll go ahead to play that right now.
Are you a Nigerian in the diaspora looking to assure your real estate investment or to invest in Nigeria? If you are, this message is for you.
Many Nigerians who live abroad and have ongoing building projects in Nigeria would like an independent, objective, professional third party to verify the status of their projects.
Some have a family property in Nigeria that is moribund, possibly losing value, and they need a professional to help them evaluate the property for repurposing, revenue generation potential, and ongoing optimal management.
Perhaps in your case, you are in a transaction to buy a property in Nigeria and would like an independent third-party verification of property specifications, locational dynamics, and revenue appreciation potential of the said property.
It could also be that you have invested in a property or are about to take a decision on a property and would like verification of the documentation of the property, or that you need to verify or secure start-to-finish approval on a property development project.
Dia, Fatimile & Co. is your trusted partner for these and other services that seek to de-risk real estate investments by Nigerians in the diaspora. We will hold your hands through transactions and represent your interest always.
For over 40 years, and from a network of 15 offices in major Nigerian cities and in London, Dia, Fatimile & Co. has catered to the real estate needs of several generations of Nigerians.
Through RAS, our real estate acquisition advisory service, we are positioned to facilitate safe real estate investments for Nigerians in the diaspora. Our team of advisors, analysts, and other professionals will do the legwork and due diligence for you with the goal of actualizing your real estate goal on time and with minimal risk. Nigerians, home and abroad, should be able to make safe and enduring investments in their home country, and Dia, Fatimile & Co.'s Real Estate Acquisition Advisory Service, RAS, is designed to help them do that.
Our team of over 250 professionals understand the legal, tax, environmental, technical, real estate, and construction framework and regulations, and will bring that to bear in representing our clients' interests.
Real estate is one asset known to build transgenerational wealth, and the Nigerian real estate market is one of the largest and most vibrant in Africa. With a growing population that puts a demand on housing and fast urbanization, the sector is projected for growth with good returns potential for investors seeking opportunity in an evolving market.
So, in very concrete terms, these are some of the ways we can work with you to ensure a safer, timely, on budget, minimal risk, and stress-free transactional experience. If you're buying, we will carry out the due diligence so you can be rest assured of proper titling and approvals and locational dynamics. If your relative is supervising your building projects, we will ensure the land is properly registered, the development plan is approved, and provide unbiased progress reports on a quarterly basis.
To take advantage of this service, visit us at www.diafatimile.net/RAS to complete a 2-minute survey to acquaint us with your cross-border real estate needs, and our advisors will contact you. We look forward to working with you to de-risk your real estate investment.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for the video. I think it encapsulates everything we've been talking about. We're now going to go into another video about Dia Fatimile & Company. Please, we're seeing the comments and the questions. I think we have a little time, but do type them in if you can, and we'll be addressing as we go along. Is the video on Dia Fatimile going to play, or should we move?
You can move on. I think you can move on.
Okay, so thank you, Mobola. So we're going to share the results of the poll, the last one we did. Can we share those results now, please? Okay, so how do you currently source for real estate in Nigeria? Agents predominantly, secondly through friends and family. So yes, I mean, it's to be expected. I think because we want advice, we want some form of comfort, and we can get that through human interaction, through agents and through friends and family. Second, would you be interested in a mortgage or installments payment plan for real estate acquisition? The answer here is predominantly yes. So I think, like we said, one of our speakers, that's Mr. Denny, he talked about his friend who had very high cost of financing. I mean, and we're available to also answer questions. The service that we're offering is also advice on the market norms and how to finance your acquisition of the property. And which payment mode would you prefer to make your acquisition? Yes, predominantly Naira, understood. We understand. So yeah, so those are the results. Thank you all for sharing that with us. So I think our next portion is on webinar. Can we share the webinar? So the webinar is going to hold next week, Saturday, at the same time. And there we're going to be taking you through the transaction process for the acquisition of real estate. So that's going to be the subject of our next webinar. I believe you also have to register for that. So it's not going to be the same link. Thank you for sharing. Yes. So session 2 is risk minimization, understanding the transaction process. Many people, so as we have seen, there are lots of gaps in knowledge and understanding that many people are dealing with. And, unfortunately, Nigeria is not the most transparent market in terms of real estate for information, which is why you still need professionals working with you. And at Dia Fatunle and Company, we're able to facilitate that for you through this real estate acquisition service, RAS. So please join us. We know these are precious times on Saturday, but we think that they are very, very beneficial for everyone involved. Thank you. Okay, I think we talked about the survey, Mobola and team. Is there anything else we need to point out before we move to close?
So there's a survey that would like every attendee to please complete for us, but the survey will be shared, will be sent to your emails or will come up on your browser as soon as the session ends. We just ask that you please take the time, no more than 2 to 3 minutes, to complete the survey for us. And then for those who attended this session, the link for Saturday's session will be sent to your emails. So you may not necessarily have to register again, but you would have to check your emails for the link to attend. And we invite everybody to please share the flyers. We will send flyers to you. Share the flyers with your friends, your family, your colleagues, so that they can come and benefit from some of the information we shared today. That would be it from me, Larry. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone. I think we had very good turnout today. Please, as Mobola mentioned, spread the word. We are all about ensuring transparency, and we're all about reducing risk, because it is this risk that prevents investments into Nigeria, and that is what we want for the development of the country and for building wealth and income for ourselves. So once again, I want to thank everyone for taking their time out on Saturday, this weekend, to join us today. Our hope is we found it very useful and valuable. I'd like to thank our speakers, Mr. Ekundayo Onojobi, Mr. Yemi Kuku, Mr. Theophilos Odeni, and Mr. Tola Oyenekon for their wonderful insights. I think we should be able to share some of those slides with everyone from Tola. And I also want to thank the team working behind the scenes to put this together. I think you can see their names, Ms. Mobola Lano, Ms. Faye Martins, Ms. Orelua Ojo, Ms. Tracy Omon, for putting a wonderful session together. Thank you all for a job very well done. And once again, we hope to see you all next week. Don't forget to register. And and wish you all the best. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you all.